The Lounge of Sin was alive with low music, neon haze, and the warm buzz of 20 Bad Girls regulars scattered across velvet couches. The pink sign above the bar glowed like a dare. No men, no mercy. Madison Rain stood at the counter, leather jacket open, championship draped over her shoulder as she laughed with the bartender. The belt caught every flash of neon, sparkling against the bottles lined up behind her. She wasn't drunk, just enjoying herself, one hand wrapped around a glass, the other resting on the side of her title plate. The bartender leaned in and said something under the music, and Madison responded with a small smirk, brushing hair back behind her ear. The two bouncers at the door watched the room with relaxed confidence. Nothing ever went wrong when the champion was lounging. The rule hung above them like gospel. If the champion is drinking, everyone drinks. Madison turned her head for half a second, just enough time for someone to slip through the side entrance unnoticed. The crowd barely registered the shadow until it moved with purpose, fast, sharp, and unannounced. Jamie Hayter. She hit Madison from behind, forearm crashing between the shoulder blades, sending the champion forward against the counter. Glasses shattered. The belt slipped from Rain's shoulder and skidded across the bar. The room gasped in a rising wave. Madison grabbed the edge of the counter, steadying herself as Jamie seized a fistful of her hair and slammed her face into the bar top once, twice, the neon lights flickering with each jolt. Madison shoved back hard, elbowing Jamie in the ribs before turning and landing a sharp forearm under Hayter's jaw. The two women collided against a cluster of velvet couches, knocking drinks from tables as onlookers scrambled back. The bouncers moved in but hesitated. This was Bad Girls' business, and when it was title-related, the mansion rules applied. Let them settle it. Jamie grabbed Madison by the waist and drove her into the karaoke stage, the wooden edge cracking under the impact. Madison gritted her teeth and fired punches to the body, each one hitting solid. Jamie stepped back, only to whip Madison toward the wall of Polaroids. Rain hit the wall shoulder first, photos scattering around her like falling confetti from past victories. Madison responded fast, pulling herself off the wall and charging with a running knee that caught Jamie in the chest, sending her dropping over a couch. The room roared as the champion reclaimed momentum, grabbing Jamie by the wrist and dragging her toward the center of the lounge. Jamie planted her feet, blocked a forearm, and cracked Madison across the jaw with a hook that echoed through the bar. Madison staggered but stayed upright, wiping her mouth with her thumb and staring Jamie down with that queen bee glare that never softened. "Come on then," Madison muttered, voice low. Jamie swung again. Madison ducked, shot in for a takedown, and the two crashed through a low table, splintering it across the floor. The match had been going roughly 6 minutes already. Fast, gritty, no pauses. The women rolled apart, each pushing up to their feet slowly, breathing deep, sweat cutting through the neon light. Jamie moved first, grabbing a bar stool and swinging it at Madison's midsection. The champion blocked with her forearms but dropped to a knee from the force. Hayter raised the stool again, ready to finish the job. That's when a shadow filled the doorway. Sarita, leather jacket, chin down, eyes locked on the chaos. She didn't run, she didn't need to. She walked with steady intent straight toward the fight, weaving through the crowd that parted for her immediately. Jamie noticed too late. Sarita caught the stool mid-swing, ripped it from Hayter's hands, and tossed it across the bar like scrap. Jamie spun toward her, but Sarita struck clean, body shot, forearm, and a short burst of aggression that sent Hayter stumbling backward into the broken table remains. The Crow Madison pushed to her feet, eyes locked on Jamie. Sarita nodded once, silent communication, no theatrics. Madison stepped in, grabbed Hayter by the hair, pulled her forward, and dropped her with a precise snap variation of her finishing cutter, sharp, sudden, and final. Hayter hit the floor hard, 8 minutes clean. Madison exhaled, brushing hair from her face as she retrieved her championship from the bar counter. The belt was smudged but still shining. She slung it over her shoulder, then looked back at Sarita, who simply crossed her arms and scanned the room like she was checking for more threats. No more came. Hayter rolled onto her side, clutching her head, breathing heavy and beaten. Madison stepped over her, adjusting the title with a calm grin. "Next time, Jamie," Madison said softly, "try knocking on the door." Sarita fell in behind her as the champion walked toward the private exit, the neon sign glowing overhead in bright, merciless pink. No men, no mercy. Madison Rayne left the lounge with her championship untouched. The arena lights snapped into a deep red glow as the Raw is War theme blasted through the speakers, the crowd already riding high from the night's earlier chaos. The Titantron flickered to life, showing Vince McMahon standing in his Raw GM office with that unmistakable spark in his eyes. He leaned forward, pointing directly at the camera with a grin that had attitude written all over it. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice booming with authority, "your evening is about to get a hell of a lot more exciting, because tonight, right here on Raw is War, we will crown the first ever PTW Women's United States Champion." The crowd roared, several fans jumping out of their seats. Vince slammed his palm on the desk. Charlotte Flair will face Alicia Fox, and that championship match happens, right now. The arena erupted in raw noise as pyro cracked across the stage. Charlotte Flair made her way down the ramp with extreme confidence, the crowd more fired up being informed that this match would determine the first ever PTW Women's United States Champion. Her posture was regal, chin up, every step calculated and dripping with superiority. She flipped her hair back and pointed the empty belt podium ringside, signaling that she expected to walk out with gold around her waist. Alicia Fox exploded through the curtain moments later with that wild, fierce spark she was known for, arms out, pacing with long strides, ready for chaos. The fans gave her a fiery pop, knowing this was the biggest opportunity of her PTW run so far. The bell rang and Alicia wasted no time. She stormed forward and caught Charlotte with a burst of punches that backed the Queen into the ropes. Charlotte tried to reset, but Alicia whipped her across the ring and collided into her with a running big boot that dropped Charlotte hard. Charlotte rolled out immediately, clutching her jaw, trying to slow the tempo. Alicia followed with zero hesitation, grabbing Charlotte's head and driving her face into the barricade. The crowd erupted as Charlotte stumbled forward, only to counter by shoving Alicia into the ring post, shoulder first. Still outside the ring, Charlotte laid a sharp chop across Alicia's chest, the sound cracking across the arena, and hurled her spine first into the apron, then rolling her in for the first near fall. Alicia kicked out clean at 2, twisting to her side, catching her breath as Charlotte mounted her with deliberate elbow strikes while still down, each one cracking against her collarbone. Charlotte hauled Alicia up and launched her with an exploder suplex. Alicia grimaced and rolled toward the ropes. Charlotte grabbed her legs, trying to lock in the figure 8 early. Alicia kicked her away, got to her feet, and fired off a forearm that dropped Charlotte to one knee. Alicia followed with her signature axe kick, the crowd reacting loudly as Charlotte collapsed. Alicia covered. 1, 2. Charlotte kicked out with defiance and barked at the referee. Alicia dragged her back up and hit a Northern Lights suplex with a bridge so tight the fans thought she had it. Charlotte powered out again at 2, teeth clenched. Alicia motioned with her hands, signaling the crowd, waiting for Charlotte to rise. She launched into her spinning big kick, but Charlotte ducked it and nailed a quick back suplex, immediately stepping into the figure 4. She bridged up into the figure 8, the pressure twisting Alicia's spine. Alicia's hand hovered over the mat, her face contorted, but she rolled and flipped the hold, forcing Charlotte to break it. Both women lay on the mat, breathing heavily, showing the toll early. Charlotte rose first and leveled Alicia with a big boot she covered. 1, 2. Alicia kicked out again. A mix of frustration and disbelief cracked across Charlotte's expression. She hauled Alicia up and planted her with natural selection. The crowd gasped. Charlotte hooked the leg. 1, 2. Alicia kicked out at the last moment. Charlotte sat back in pure shock. Fueled by urgency, Charlotte dragged Alicia up once more for a second natural selection. The crowd suddenly popped as Kiera Hogan sprinted down the ramp. Charlotte screamed at her to get down, leaning over the ropes. The referee tried to block the view, but the distraction was enough. Alicia staggered up, breath ragged, eyes barely focused. Charlotte turned around, furious and distracted, and Alicia blasted her with a full-impact, spinning big kick. The crack of the boot hitting Charlotte's jaw echoed through the arena like a whip snap. Charlotte dropped instantly, body limp. Alicia collapsed onto her for the cover, hooking both legs tight. The referee slid in for the count. 1, 2, 3. The arena detonated in noise as Alicia's music hit. She lay on her back for a moment, chest rising and falling as she absorbed what just happened. The referee brought the new PTW Women's United States Championship into the ring and raised her arm high, while Kiera Hogan slid in the ring with one hand raised in victory. She crouched beside Alicia with a smile carved across her face. Alicia pushed herself to her knees slowly, still recovering from the fast pace but tough battle she had just fought. The referee placed the championship in her hands, and the weight of the moment hit her all at once. Her eyes widened, her lips parted, and she clutched the title tight against her chest like it was something she had been chasing her entire career. Kiera Hogan wrapped an arm around her shoulder, half steadying her, half celebrating with her. The two shared a moment of pure adrenaline, Alicia laughing breathlessly. Kiera telling her, "You did it. That belongs to you now." Alicia Fox rose to her feet, wobbling at first, then standing tall as her theme blasted. She raised the championship high with both hands, the crowd roaring as camera flashes popped across the arena. She climbed onto the middle turnbuckle, leaning forward with the belt held proudly above her head, jaw set, eyes shining with that ferocious Fox energy. Kiera stood under her, pointing up at Alicia like she had just watched the birth of a new star. Charlotte lay at ringside, furious and dazed, pounding the floor with the palm of her hand, but unable to stand. Alicia ignored her, choosing instead to bask in the crowd's ovation. She slung the title over her shoulder, exchanged a quick tap of fists with Kiera, and walked up the ramp together, both smiling wide as fans stretched their hands out to her. Alicia looked back once toward the ring, lifted the title again, and smirked with satisfaction. Tonight belonged to her. The championship belonged to her. A new era in the PTW women's division had officially begun. PTW scheduled the immediate post-match championship photo shoot backstage, and Alicia arrived still carrying the adrenaline of the fight. She walked into the white backdrop studio slowly, chest rising from the match she had gone through, the gold-plated Women's United States Championship draped over her shoulder like a statement of arrival. The belt's jewels caught the overhead lighting, scattering sharp reflections across the room as a few staff members adjusted the spotlight height. Alicia stood still while a tech straightened the strap on her shoulder, her half-smile turning into something more satisfied the moment she felt the title fully centered. The photographer lifted his hand. "Whenever you're ready, champ." Alicia lifted her chin, eyes narrowing slightly as she stepped forward. She adjusted the belt with a slow pull, letting the strap slide down her arm just enough to make the centerpiece visible. The backdrop amplified every color of the title's design. The flag pattern, the golden eagle wings, the deep ruby stones set against the white strap. Alicia angled her body sideways, placing her free hand on her hip, letting her posture say everything she didn't need to speak. 2 flashes went off, catching her expression crisp and confident. She switched poses without being asked. In the next shot, she lifted the title high with both hands, arms locked, the belt almost glowing under the lighting grid. A breath escaped her with a low laugh, the reality of the moment hitting harder than expected. She took a knee for the third pose, resting the belt across her thigh, head tilted, eyes staring straight into the lens with that fierce Alicia Fox intensity. Then she stood for the final pose. slipping the title around her waist. She buckled it herself, slow and deliberate, nodding softly when she heard the last clip lock. The belt fit perfectly. She ran her fingers across the plate once, admiring the shine. Kiera Hogan entered the frame, grinning wide, stepping behind Alicia and pointing down at the belt like she was presenting royalty. The photographer captured the shot instantly. Two friends frozen in a celebration pose that would hit every PTW social feed within the hour. Alicia exhaled once more, lifting the championship with pride. The first official portrait of the Women's United States champion was complete, and Alicia Fox owned every pixel of it. Solo walked through the curtain with the world title still clutched in his hand, sweat rolling down his face, chest rising slow and heavy from the war he just survived. The hallway buzzed with road agents, medics, crew, everyone instinctively stepping aside the moment they saw the new champion coming. Solo didn't smile. He didn't pose. He just dragged the towel across his neck and muttered, "That's one." It wasn't bragging. It was just him counting bodies. Roman stood waiting at the far end of the hallway, arms folded across his chest, head tilted slightly, the tribal chief posture calm but sharp. Jacob Fatu flanked his right side, leaning against a production crate like a guard dog waiting for a command. Heyman stood between them, wringing his hands, eyes wider than usual, still vibrating from adrenaline. Solo stopped right in front of Roman. Neither said anything at first. Just a long look between brothers who didn't need words to read each other's exhaustion. Roman finally nodded once. "You earned that," he said, voice low and steady. "Every second of that fight, you earned it." Solo shrugged lightly, smirking under his breath. "Joe hits hard," he muttered, rubbing his jaw. "But I hit harder, and I needed something to do before dinner anyway." Roman shook his head at the deadpan delivery, half a laugh slipping through his nose. "Yeah, that's your humor. That's the Solo way. Beat a monster half to death and treat it like laundry day." Heyman stepped in immediately, palms pressed together. "My tribal heir, that performance was supernatural. I mean, that wasn't a match. That was a..." Solo cut him off without raising his voice. "Paul." Heyman froze instantly. Solo nodded toward Jacob. "You see Jacob laughing at you?" Jacob smirked but said nothing, arms crossed. Heyman swallowed and stepped back into place. Solo lifted the title slightly, turning it just enough so the hallway lights reflected across the gold. "This stays with us," he said quietly. "I'm bringing it home tonight. To the blood room. We ain't losing nothing in this town." Roman stepped closer, eyes narrowing, not angry, just locked in. "Good," he said, "because I'm next." Solo nodded once, tapping the plate of his belt with his thumb. "Shawn Michaels ain't Joe," he said. "He's faster, cute music and all that, but he bleeds like everybody else." Roman's lips tightened in a half smile. "I'm not worried about Shawn Michaels. I'm not worried about anybody. I'm Roman Reigns. This is Wrestletown. And this is our era." Solo shifted the belt over his shoulder. "Then end him quick," he said. "I'm tired, and I don't want to hear him sing before bed." Jacob finally let out a short, deep laugh. "He ain't wrong," he said. "HBK be dancing too damn much." Heyman gasped. "Jacob, that is the heartbreak." Solo held up his hand, and Heyman stopped instantly. Roman stepped forward until he was inches from Solo, the tribal chief aura radiating off him. "Tonight," he said, "you made the bloodline stronger. Now I finish the job. Then Wrestletown learns what dominance really looks like." Solo's eyes stayed locked on his older cousin. "Bring it home," he said. "You win tonight. We sit on top together." Roman bumped his fist lightly against Solo's belt plate. "Acknowledge greatness," he said. Solo replied without blinking. "Make 'em acknowledge you first." Roman turned and headed toward gorilla position, cracking his neck like he was walking toward a street fight instead of a match. Heyman lingered a moment, staring at Solo's belt like it was holy scripture. The camera lingered on the hallway as the bloodlines split into their separate missions. One champion already crowned, one on his way to battle. Wrestletown buzzing as the empire continued to rise. Shawn Michaels sat on the edge of the bench with his wrists wrapped and his eyes fixed on the floor. legs bouncing slow and controlled like a spring coiling tighter with every passing second. The DX swagger was still there, always there. But tonight it simmered under the surface, instead of exploding out in jokes and crotch chops. China stood behind him with her arms folded, leaning against the locker with the same quiet intensity she always carried before big fights. Her stare locked on the reflection in the metal door opposite them. "You're quiet," she said, voice flat but not cold. "That's not you before a match." Shawn smirked, rubbing his thumb across the tape on his wrist. "This ain't just a match," he said. "This is Roman Reigns, big dog, tribal something or other, whole family watching, whole town on fire for him." He paused, tapping his boot on the tile once. "I'm not about to let the new king of the yard think he can just walk through me like I'm some warm-up act." China stepped closer, placing her hand on his shoulder. Not gentle, not soft, just grounding him the way she always did. "He's strong," she said. "He's fresh. He's dangerous. But he hasn't fought you." Shawn lifted his head a little, eyes shifting toward her with that trademark HBK spark. "Yeah, well, the kid better be ready, because I'm not stepping out there to kiss the ring. I'm stepping out there to punch a dynasty in the mouth." China nodded once, lips tightening into something just short of a smile. "Good. Stay in that zone." Shawn stood, rolling his neck, stretching his arm across his chest. "Solo winning earlier? That's big news. Whole bloodline feeling themselves tonight." He flattened his palms and cracked his knuckles. "That means Roman's going to be twice as confident, twice as fired up, twice as reckless." China walked around him, checking the seams of his gloves, giving him a once-over, like a soldier prepping a weapon. "Confidence breaks," she said. "Speed doesn't. Outrun him, outsmart him. He's powerful, but he's not you." Shawn couldn't resist a small grin. "I do tend to have a little extra magic under the lights." China stepped in front of him, her expression finally sharpening with real intensity. "Listen to me," she said. "Roman Reigns isn't Shawn Michaels. He doesn't live for the pressure. He doesn't shine under the spotlight. He endures it. You thrive in it. So stop thinking about the bloodline. Stop thinking about legacy. Go out there and make him think about you." Shawn inhaled slowly, letting her words settle deep. "I like that," he whispered. "Make him think about me." China opened the locker, pulled out the DX vest, and handed it to him. He slipped it on, brushing his hair back with one smooth motion. "Besides," he added with a little smirk, "if I beat Roman tonight, Wrestletown's gonna start talking about the Heartbreak Kid again, like they should have been doing the whole time." China smirked back. "Then go give them something worth talking about." Shawn's voice dropped to a whisper as he turned toward the hallway, entrance music rumbling faintly in the distance. "Time to show the new era how I built the old one." He pushed the door open, China right behind him, and the two walked toward gorilla position with that unmistakable DX stride. Slow, confident, dangerous, ready to steal the whole damn show. The lights in Wrestletown Arena dimmed to a deep, electric darkness, the kind that didn't silence the crowd. It ignited them. A pulse of bass rolled through the building like a heartbeat, slow and heavy, before the screens exploded with gold-tinted storm clouds swirling into the shape of a tribal crest. A low roar rippled across the fans as Roman Reigns stepped onto the stage. He didn't rush. He didn't posture. He stood there on the ramp with that cold, unblinking confidence that made lesser men feel smaller just by being in the same building. The tribal chief carried himself like a man who didn't just expect victory. He expected domination. His chest expanded with a slow inhale, the spotlight catching every bead of sweat forming before the battle even began. Roman lowered his gaze toward the ring, like he was judging the terrain of a battlefield he already owned. The crowd roared louder. Somewhere deep under that thunder, Vince McMahon's voice rumbled faintly through the speakers. "Good Lord, look at the presence of this man," before fading back into the energy of the moment. Roman began his walk. Slow, measured. Every step heavy, powerful, like the floor beneath him acknowledged the weight he carried. Fans leaned over the barricade, some cheering, some booing sharply, but all reacting because Roman demanded reaction simply by existing. Halfway down the ramp, Roman paused, chin slightly lifted, eyes fixed forward. He seemed to send one silent message to everyone watching. This is my night, my ring, my destiny. Then he moved again, rolling his shoulders before climbing the steel steps with a predator's calm. He entered the ring without a flourish, without grand theatrics. Roman Reigns didn't need to announce anything. His aura did it for him. He turned to the hard camera, lifted one hand slowly, fingers forming the unmistakable signal of dynasty dominance, and the crowd responded with a rumble that shook the lighting trusses. Roman retreated to his corner, pacing once, twice, shoulders square and ready. His eyes locked on the stage. The music cut. Silence. Then, kaboom. Fireworks shot across the screen in neon green and chrome silver. A heartbeat rhythm thumped under the Tron, and the arena snapped alive with whistles, cheers, and a wave of nostalgia-driven adrenaline. "Are you ready?" the speakers whispered. And then it hit. That unmistakable, sharp, swagger-filled guitar riff that slithered across the rafters before dropping into the iconic DX-styled remix of HBK's theme. The crowd went ballistic. Not just loud, alive. Shawn Michaels stepped onto the stage wearing the 1997-1998 cocky smirk that could melt a crowd or infuriate an opponent in seconds. His vest gleamed silver under the lights, fringes hanging from each arm, hair perfectly wild, every part of him radiating swagger he didn't earn through bragging. He earned it by being one of the greatest to ever lace a boot. Chyna stepped onto the stage behind him, stoic and powerful, arms folded, jaw set. Her presence alone made the entrance feel bigger, more dangerous. Shawn did a small turn, flexing, letting the fringe whip over his shoulders. Behind him, Chyna remained a steel wall. HBK looked toward the ring, spotted Roman waiting, and didn't show 1 ounce of fear. In fact, he grinned. He mouthed something at Roman. A single word, but the cameras couldn't catch it. Roman's eyebrow lifted in response. Shawn strutted down the ramp with that signature bounce in his step, the loose rhythm that belonged to a man who knew he could steal any show, anywhere, anytime. He slid into the ring, jumped to his feet in one smooth motion, and climbed the nearest turnbuckle. Arms wide. Chin up. The spotlight hit him like a crown. The fans roared. Jesse Ventura's voice slipped into the atmosphere like a ghost of 80s commentary. "This man is a show stealer, McMahon. Roman better be ready for a professional, not a powerhouse." Then silence again as the music faded. Shawn dropped from the turnbuckle with feline fluidity, shaking his legs loose, rolling his shoulders. He pointed across the ring at Roman, tapping his heart once, then the center of the mat. Roman didn't move, didn't blink, didn't look impressed. The referee called both men forward. They stepped into the center of the ring slowly, not circling, measuring. HBK smirked up at the taller, heavier powerhouse. Roman stared down at the icon, like a man studying prey he knew wouldn't fall easily. "This is it," Shawn whispered without breaking eye contact. Roman's jaw tightened. "You're damn right it is." The bell rang. The energy shifted instantly. Roman stepped forward first, testing the waters with small feints. Shoulder twitch, hand raise, a slow step right. HBK didn't retreat. His footwork was light, bouncing in place, ready to slip in and out. Roman tried for the first collar tuck. Shawn ducked under it, tapping Roman's ribs with the flat of his palm just to annoy him. Roman turned sharply. HBK winked. The crowd reacted with that classic, "Oh!" Shawn danced out of range when Roman lunged again, brushing his hair back like he had all the time in the world. Roman stopped, breathing slow, nostrils flaring just slightly. He didn't charge, didn't get reckless, he reset. HBK darted in with a quick chop to Roman's chest. Sharp, quick, cracking the silence with a knife's edge sting. Roman absorbed it and stepped forward again, crowd humming at the tension building. Shawn fired a second chop, then a third. Roman grabbed him by the hair and shoved him backward with one arm, the raw power forcing HBK to hit the ropes. Shawn used the momentum to rebound and glide under Roman's grasping arm, hitting the opposite ropes and sprinting back. Roman threw a clothesline the size of a tree swinging. Shawn ducked under it by centimeters. The wind from Roman's arm brushed the top of HBK's head. Shawn reached the ropes again and leapt, flying forearm straight to Roman's cheek. Roman staggered 2 steps sideways. Not down, not close to down. HBK rolled through and popped to his feet. The crowd burst. Roman shook out the impact, jaw tightening, eyes darkening. Without warning, he rushed forward. The explosion of speed from the heavyweight caught HBK off guard. Roman plowed him into the corner with a running lariat that folded Shawn against the buckle. Roman unleashed a series of heavy, thick shoulder thrusts into Shawn's ribs. 1, 2, 3, each one hammering deeper into the midsection. Shawn gasped through clenched teeth, arms hanging over the ropes as he absorbed the assault. Roman stepped back and fired a short clothesline that rattled Shawn's jaw, nearly taking his head off. HBK dropped to a seated position in the corner. Roman stayed on him, driving the heel of his boot into Shawn's chest with 3 sharp stomps before the referee finally squeezed between them to separate. HBK rolled onto his side, clutching his ribs, breath shaky. Roman paced back, calm, dangerous, patient. The crowd murmured. Roman wasn't rushing, he was dissecting. HBK pulled himself up using the ropes, shaking out one arm. His breaths were thin, tight, but his smirk returned. "That all you got?" he whispered loud enough for only Roman and the first row to hear. Roman stepped forward. Shawn exploded. A quick flurry. Jab, chop, chop, low kick to the thigh. Roman blocked the last one and fired back with a right hand that cracked across HBK's face so violently the crowd gasped. Shawn's legs wobbled and he collapsed to one knee. Roman grabbed him by the hair, dragging him upright. HBK winced, fingers digging into Roman's forearm, but Roman's grip only tightened. He lifted Shawn and slammed him with a body slam that rattled the canvas. HBK hit hard and stayed down for a moment, his chest rising in slow, pained breaths. Roman didn't rush to cut. He hit the ropes and came back with a running elbow drop aimed at HBK's sternum. Shawn rolled out just in time. Roman hit the mat with a heavy thud and HBK scrambled to his feet, clutching his ribs but moving with urgency. He bounced off the ropes and delivered a precise dropkick to Roman's jaw, snapping the big man's head sideways. Roman rolled to all fours. HBK stayed on him, grabbing Roman by the hair and pulling him up. Slow, gritty, both men grunting from exertion. Shawn chopped Roman across the chest, harder this time. Roman's pectoral twitched from the impact. Shawn hit another, and another, rapid, blistering, each chop ringing out loud enough to sting the crowd's ears. Roman grabbed him by the waist and hurled him into the corner. Shawn struck the turnbuckles with a grunt. Roman charged. HBK dove out of the way. Roman hit the corner post shoulder first, the steel vibrating from the collision. Shawn staggered behind him and hooked Roman from behind. Back suplex. The entire ring shuddered. Both men stayed down, breathing heavy, sweat dripping. HBK rolled onto his stomach, pushing off the mat slowly, his hand clutching his ribs from the earlier assault. Roman lay on his back, eyes open but blinking, chest heaving. Ventura's voice crept into the atmosphere like a phantom again. "Both these men are feeling the cost, McMahon. That's what greatness looks like." Roman rolled to a knee. HBK pushed himself to his feet using the ropes. The match was turning into a war of attrition. Shawn reached the ropes and looked at the crowd, chest still heaving. Then he climbed. Slow at first, then faster once he steadied his breath. Roman rose underneath him, shaking his head, standing unsteady. Shawn reached the top rope, raised one arm, flew. Roman stepped forward and caught him in midair. The entire crowd gasped. Roman cinched him in tight and hurled HBK with a thunderous power slam that felt like it cracked the ring in half. Shawn bounced off the canvas, rolled onto his stomach, arm across his ribs, face tight with pain. Roman dropped to a knee, breathing heavy, one hand shaking slightly from the exertion. The pace slowed. The exhaustion showed. The damage was setting in. They hadn't even hit the finish stretch yet, and it was already becoming a war. The referee hovered nearby but didn't touch either man. They needed a moment. The crowd watched in total silence. Roman rose first, slow, controlled, dangerous. HBK rolled toward the ropes, pulling himself up strand by strand, every motion showing fatigue. The first signs of fatigue weren't dramatic, just subtle. The slower breath, the slight tightening around his ribs from Roman's shoulder thrusts earlier. But HBK's eyes stayed sharp. He feinted left and slipped right, tagging Roman's thigh with a crisp kick. Roman didn't react outwardly, just absorbed it and stepped through with a clothesline that Shawn narrowly ducked. HBK hit the ropes and returned with a running forearm that Roman blocked with a raised elbow. The two collided in a heavy thud, neither falling. Roman's posture stiffened. HBK's expression hardened into something more serious. They circled again. Chyna slapped the apron once, hard, her voice cutting through the noise with a sharp, "Come on, Shawn!" Paul Heyman mirrored her energy on the opposite side, pacing, clutching his head with both hands, like the match was physically harming him. "Roman, finish him. Don't let him breathe." Roman heard it. He didn't react. He launched forward with a sudden burst that caught HBK flat-footed. Roman barreled him into the corner with a shoulder block that folded Shawn against the turnbuckles. Roman hammered him with two heavy clotheslines in the corner, each one landing flush across the chest with a loud smack. HBK sagged slightly, his breath forced out in staggered bursts. Roman grabbed him by the hair and ripped him out of the corner, whipping him into the opposite turnbuckles so hard Shawn's back bounced off the padding. Shawn stumbled forward instinctively and Roman charged. HBK dropped to the mat and Roman crashed sternum first into the post. The impact was brutal. Roman's features tightened in pain as he staggered backward. HBK rose quickly, clutching his ribs but still thinking 2 steps ahead. He hit the ropes, gathered momentum, and leapt with a flying forearm that connected flush with Roman's jaw. Roman hit the mat. The crowd roared. Shawn rolled through and popped up to his feet, but his legs wavered. He steadied himself on instinct, taking 1 extra heartbeat before moving. He reached the ropes, breathed in, then jumped into a quick burst as Roman sat up. HBK hit a running knee lift straight to the head. Roman rolled onto his back. HBK collapsed across the chest for the first real cover of the match. 1, 2. Roman shoved him off violently. The power in the kick-out alone told the story. Roman wasn't even close to being finished. HBK sat up, breathing harder now, one hand pressed against his ribs. Roman rolled to a knee, blinking hard, shaking the collision from his torso. His eyes narrowed. An instinctive predator's reaction. Shawn stood and delivered a chop to Roman's chest. Roman absorbed it and rose fully. HBK hit another. Roman stepped closer. HBK hit a third. Louder, faster, deeper. Roman grabbed Shawn by the hair and hurled him into the ropes. HBK rebounded, and Roman lifted him high into the air. Samoan drop. Shawn hit the ground with a heavy smack and rolled onto his stomach with a pained gasp. Roman crawled into a cover, hooking one leg with authority. 1, 2. Shawn kicked out, but not with grace, more like a survival spasm. Chyna slammed the apron again, shouting something low and fierce under her breath. Heyman threw his hands into the air in disbelief, face twisted in a frantic mix of agony and hope. Roman rose slow, controlled, breathing heavier now. He stalked Shawn as HBK crawled toward the ropes. Roman grabbed him by the hair and dragged him up. Not kindly, not quickly. Shawn grimaced as his neck bent back, his hands instinctively grabbing Roman's wrist. Roman shot a headbutt into Shawn's forehead. HBK staggered. Roman whipped him to the ropes and extended his arm for a Superman punch. HBK dropped, ducking under the swing with inches to spare. Roman spun around. HBK cracked him across the chest with a rapid chop. Then another. Then a third. Roman didn't retreat, but tension crept across his features, irritation flaring at the cumulative sting. HBK kicked Roman's thigh, forcing the powerhouse to adjust his stance. Shawn hit a second kick, quicker. Roman swung with a short hook punch. Shawn ducked it and hit the ropes, leaping into a flying crossbody. Roman caught him in midair. The reaction from the crowd was pure disbelief. Roman shifted his footing and hurled HBK with a massive fall-away slam that sent Shawn sliding across the ring. HBK didn't pop up. He stayed down, hand on his ribs, chest heaving with real pain. Roman shook out his arm and exhaled hard, cracks of sweat running down his temple. He reached down, grabbed HBK by the hair again, and dragged him upright. Shawn's legs buckled beneath him, But Roman held him upright and fired a short-arm clothesline that flipped HBK nearly inside out. Roman covered again. 1, 2. HBK kicked out. Roman sat up with a low, simmering frustration, posture stiffening as he stared at the ref for a brief second. Not arguing, just processing how much more it would take. Across the floor, Heyman screamed, "That was 3!" Chyna stepped onto the apron for the first time, leaning forward, eyes locked on the ring, jaw clenched. She didn't say a word. Her presence alone shot energy into HBK's spine. Shawn pushed onto all fours, slowly, painfully. Roman stood over him like a shadow ready to swallow him whole. He pulled HBK up again by the hair, Shawn's face twisting in a grimace, but HBK fired a sudden punch to Roman's ribs. Then another. Roman barely budged. HBK hit a third, fourth, fifth. Roman's posture finally shifted. HBK chopped him once, twice, 3 times, lighting Roman's chest red. Roman swung a massive right. HBK ducked and grabbed Roman's waist. Sudden roll-up. 1, 2. Roman kicked out violently. The crowd exploded. First real near-fall scare for Roman. Roman rose fast, fury in his steps. Shawn hadn't even reached his feet yet. Roman launched forward and blasted him with a Superman punch that nearly knocked HBK out cold. Shawn collapsed, eyes glassy, body limp. Roman dropped to the mat and hooked both legs. 1, 2. HBK kicked out. The arena erupted. Chyna slammed both palms on the apron, shouting, "Let's go, Shawn!" Heyman screamed in disbelief, stumbling backward with his hands on top of his head. Roman stared at Shawn, eyes narrowed. His expression hardened. He stood slowly, breath heavy, chest heaving, sweat rolling down his torso. He backed into the corner. The crowd buzzed. Roman crouched, left boot tapping, right hand extended. He was calling for the spear. HBK didn't move at first. He lay on his back, chest rising in sharp, uneven breaths. Roman launched, a bullet of power. HBK sprang to life in the final heartbeat, leapfrogging Roman with an athletic burst that came from pure ring instinct. Roman flew under him and crashed shoulder first into the turnbuckle. Shawn dropped to his knees from the exertion alone. The crowd screamed for him to capitalize. HBK reached the ropes and pulled himself up strand by strand using every ounce of strength left. Roman turned around, slower now, dazed from the impact. HBK limped toward him, firing a chop. Roman tanked it. HBK fired another. Roman staggered. HBK hit a running forearm. Roman didn't fall. HBK hit a second. Roman leaned back but stayed upright. HBK hit the ropes, sprinted, and launched his entire body into a third. Roman finally dropped to one knee. Shawn backed up, every movement slowed by exhaustion. His chest heaved, his limbs trembled, but the fire in his eyes never dimmed. Roman rose. HBK leapt, flying elbow. It landed perfect on Roman's heart. The arena detonated. Shawn hit the mat and stayed down, sucking air through clenched teeth. He forced himself onto his hands and knees, crawling toward the turnbuckles. The climb was slow. Every rung felt like a mountain. Roman lay on his back, blinking hard, chest rising heavy. HBK reached the top rope, legs shaking beneath him. He steadied himself, breathed once, twice, flew. The top rope elbow drop crashed into Roman's sternum. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Shawn hooked the leg immediately. 1, 2. Roman kicked out. The building nearly tore itself apart. HBK rolled off, lying on his back with both arms spread, chest gulping air desperately. He turned his head slightly toward Chyna. Her stare locked on him, urging him to rise. Shawn pushed himself onto all fours, crawling toward the ropes. Roman rolled onto his side, pushing up slowly, groaning through the pain in his ribcage. Both men rose, slow, shaky, exhausted. HBK reached the corner. He started tuning up the band. One stomp. The crowd joined instantly. Stomp. Roman staggered upright. Stomp. Heyman screamed, "Roman, move!" Stomp. Roman turned. Stomp. HBK launched sweet chin music. Roman caught his leg. The crowd gasped. HBK's eyes widened as Roman pushed him backward with monstrous strength, lifting him into a powerbomb position. Roman hoisted him up. HBK rained down desperate punches. Roman faltered. HBK twisted midair into a sunset flip. Roman dropped to his knees. HBK locked the cradle. 1, 2. Roman kicked out at the very last heartbeat. Ventura's voice echoed faintly. "That was instinct, McMahon. Pure instinct." Both men lay there, broken, breathing like their lungs were wrapped in fire. Slowly, painfully, HBK rolled to his knees. Roman crawled to the ropes. China pounded the apron again, her voice raw. "Finish it, Shawn. Now!" Shawn rose first. Roman followed, slow groggy. HBK stepped in, raising his hand. Roman fired a right hand. HBK staggered. Roman fired another. HBK swayed, eyes unfocused. Roman hit the ropes. HBK suddenly sprang, super kick from nothing, but missed as Roman ducked under. Roman hit the opposite ropes. Spear. No, HBK leapfrogged again. Roman went under him. Turned. HBK whipped a second sweet chin music in a single instant, and it landed flush. Sweet chin music echoed off Roman's jaw like a crack of lightning, and the tribal chief's body dropped to the canvas in a heavy, lifeless crash. HBK collapsed next to him, breath ragged, chest barely lifting enough for oxygen. The fans inside Wrestletown Arena felt it instantly. The weight of history, the shock of it, the electricity that came when legends seized destiny. Shawn dragged a trembling arm across Roman's chest and hooked the leg with what little strength he had left. The referee slid into position. 1, 2, 3. The bell rang like a triumphal cannon. For a few seconds, neither man moved. The noise of the crowd swept over them in a violent wave of cheers, disbelief, tears and shock. The referee crawled toward the ropes, signaling frantically. Ringside crew members scrambled. The PTW World Championship, gleaming, polished, untouched by any hand until this moment, was brought into the ring. Shawn rolled onto his back, chest heaving, sweat dripping into his eyes. He didn't smile yet. He couldn't. His body was too beaten, too exhausted to process the moment. China slid into the ring immediately, dropping to one knee beside him, her gloved hand steadying his shoulder. "You did it," she whispered, her voice low but fierce. "You did it, Shawn." HBK blinked slowly. His posture stiffened as the reality finally seeped in. The referee lifted his wrist, raising his hand. "Ladies and gentlemen, your winner, and the first ever PTW champion, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels." The eruption from the crowd shook the rafters. It wasn't just loud, it was emotional. This wasn't a tournament advancement. This was coronation. This was the birth of a new era in PTW. China helped Shawn to his feet, one arm under him, stabilizing him as he swayed from the match's toll. The referee placed the PTW championship in Shawn's hands. HBK stared at it for a long moment, eyes wide, expression hardened from the pain, but softening with disbelief. His thumb brushed the gold plate like he was making sure it was real. Then, with a surge of instinctual pride, he lifted it. Not high, not with hype, just enough to show the world it belonged to him now. The crowd roared with HBK chants that filled the arena. China stepped behind him, giving him space but staying close in case his legs buckled. Shawn staggered to the ropes, leaning forward, letting the belt hang from his hand as he looked down at the fans with a tired, grateful smile. Roman Reigns sat up against the opposite ropes, sweat pouring down his face, breathing hard, eyes narrowed as he processed the moment. No shouting, no tantrum, no denial, just the hard reality of war and the respect it sometimes demanded. Roman looked at Shawn, beat, bruised, but standing with the title, and nodded once. A silent acknowledgement of the man who survived him. Shawn nodded back. A gesture between two warriors who knew this would not be their last collision. Heyman at ringside looked shattered, on his knees again, muttering under his breath, "This wasn't supposed to happen. Not tonight. Not like this." But his voice was drowned out by China lifting Shawn's free arm, the title high in the other, Wrestletown exploding around them. The Heartbreak Kid, battered and breathing fire, stood in the center of the ring as the first official primetime wrestling world champion. The lights flashed. Confetti cannons fired. The camera pulled in close as Shawn mouthed breathlessly, "I did it." China whispered back, "Damn right you did." The image of HBK raising the PTW championship above his head became a historic moment in PTW's legacy, the moment the belt finally had a name to define it. Shawn Michaels stumbled through the curtain like a man walking out of a storm, the PTW championship title hanging loosely from his left hand, sweat dripping off his hair in steady trails. China stayed glued to his side, one arm under his to keep him balanced, her eyes tracking every movement around them, like a silent bodyguard ready to break someone in half if they got too close. The moment HBK cleared the curtain, the hallway erupted in chaos. Agents clapped. Crew members cheered. The medical team rushed forward with towels, ice packs, and a stretcher they clearly wouldn't need, but always brought after a war like that. Shawn waved them off with a tired smirk. "No stretcher," he muttered, breathing unevenly. "Not tonight. I walked in a fighter. I'm walking out a champion." China tightened her grip on his arm, helping him stand straight. His posture stiffened briefly as a bolt of rib pain shot through him, but he swallowed it down with a wince. The medics continued their checks anyway. Light on the ribs, checks for concussion, a wipe of blood from his lip, while Shawn held onto the belt with a grip that refused to loosen. Vince McMahon stepped into the scene from the shadows of the gorilla position, with an expression caught between pride, adrenaline, and a businessman's satisfaction. His voice wasn't booming, not here. It came out low, steady. "Shawn," he said, hands on his hips, "you just made history out there." HBK couldn't muster a full smile, but he tilted his head in acknowledgement. "That the idea, right?" Vince nodded slowly. This is why I built Wrestletown. Nights like this, champions forged in fire, not handed titles. You delivered." China added, "He survived Roman Reigns. That should count for double." Vince almost smiled. "Roman Reigns isn't a man you survive often." Before anyone could say another word, the hallway thickened with tension as Roman Reigns appeared at the opposite end. No pyro, no spotlight, no theatrics, just a dangerously calm walk, sweat still dripping down his face, hair tangled from the battle. Paul Heyman trailed behind him like a frantic shadow, hands in the air, pleading under his breath. "Roman, please, let's talk about this. Roman, you did nothing wrong. Roman, listen to me." Roman ignored every word. He wasn't storming toward Shawn. He wasn't looking for revenge. His features hardened into something colder, something calculating, something that didn't resemble defeat or anger, just focus. Shawn and Roman locked eyes from across the hallway. No shouting, no conflict, just two exhausted warriors acknowledging what just happened. Roman spoke first, voice low, deep. "You got me tonight." Shawn nodded, leaning heavier on China as the pain flared through his ribs. "You almost got me too." Roman's jaw tightened, but not in frustration, more in thought. Like a man who already saw the path to the rematch forming in the back of his mind. "This isn't over," Roman said quietly. "Championship or not, you and me, we're not done." China stepped forward like a wall between them, her stare icy, daring Roman to push it. Roman didn't flinch, didn't step back either. He simply looked at Shawn again. "Heal up," he said, "because I don't want excuses next time." Shawn inhaled sharply, the world tilting a bit before China steadied him again. "Neither do I," he answered. Heyman tugged at Roman's arm, desperate to move him away before anything escalated. Roman finally let himself be guided past the new champion. He didn't look back once. Jacob Fatu waited behind him, leaning against a production crate, arms crossed, watching HBK with cold curiosity. Solo Sikoa wasn't present. He was still being treated after his war with Samoa Joe earlier. But the presence of the bloodline still filled that section of the hallway with silent pressure. Vince cleared his throat once they passed. "Get him to medical," he told the staff. "Full evaluation. And keep cameras rolling. We're documenting every second of our first champion." Shawn chuckled weakly. "Glad I could give your documentary something to film." China smirked. "Your ribs are cracked and you're still making jokes." "Hey," Shawn groaned, "champions gotta stay entertaining." The medics tried to take the belt from him to carry during treatment. HBK yanked it back stubbornly. "Nope. This stays with me. I'm not letting go tonight." Vince stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You've earned it, Shawn. And Wrestletown. Wrestletown is now officially on your shoulders." Shawn looked at the title again, eyes softening with pride. Then he looked down the hall where Roman disappeared. His expression hardened. "Fine by me," he said. "Let's see who else wants to try and take it." China helped him toward the medical bay as the cameras followed, capturing the image that would define the night. Shawn Michaels, bruised, battered, barely standing, but holding the PTW championship like it was carved from his own heart.